Hello fellow artists, this is Candy coming to you with a video tutorial on how to break the spine of a sewn bound journal or notebook. Particularly, this was designed to show you how I turned this Dylusions journal into a big funky monkey. This one has a spine that is about 2 inches, and the original Dylusions, unaltered, is about 1 inch. And I'm going to show you how to do that today, so hopefully you can do it to your notebook. I'm going to show you some tips and tricks that I've learned along the way. This is just my own interpretation of things that I've done to make the Dylusions last a little bit longer and lay flat. I am in no way affiliated with any company. I don't have a blog. This is the first video I've ever made, so I apologize for anything that doesn't go well in advance. But this is my best, and I'm going to see if I can revive your interest in the Dylusions journal or help you get a little less frustrated. I want to show you why this is important. Because I've had this problem since the beginning of time. In 2013/14, I started this Moleskine notebook, and as you can see, she's very well loved. I did not break the spine of this, so you can see she's barely holding it together, aren't we all? And I've used some masking tape, as you can see here, to keep some of the pages together so it doesn't completely unravel. But I also tend to use my collage materials purposefully on the spine, which also keeps them together. And also they start falling apart, so it's okay. Here I used, I think, some washi tape, and you can even tell it's like kind of green in color. And even the elastic closure has seen better days. But I decided that I should keep this as a memento for the journey of the chunky notebooks, which I love, and they're fun. My first Dylusions, this guy, I tried duct tape, masking tapes, all kinds of tapes to get her to fill out and stay together. You can see she doesn't even fit in the frame. So if you're comparing this one to this one, big difference. And I'm going to show you how to make this chunky baby today. Let's talk first about some terminology that I'm going to use that you may use, but you may not use the same way as I do. First, I call this cover an exoskeleton because it's in addition to the cover of the actual notebook. You can see that this portion is bigger than the actual notebook. 2 ways of going about the exoskeleton. In my first Dylusions, I just threw the envelope away with the exoskeleton. I cut the envelope and the exoskeleton and just tossed it because I knew I wasn't going to use the envelope. In my second Dylusions, sorry, bumped the camera. In my second Dylusions, I glued the exoskeleton with the envelope onto the cover, so it makes a really nice sturdy cover when your notebook gets hefty and plump. I actually really liked that, so I decided I'm going to do that. I'm going to show you that to you here, or at least talk about it. You might not see the whole thing because I don't want to make this too long. So let's also talk about the tape that I've discovered I liked. This is gaffer tape. This is 2-inch, and it is fabric tape. It's almost like bookbinding tape. I find that it's really flexible, it holds really well, and it holds mixed media very well compared to, say, duct tape or masking tape or washi tape. So I really, really like using gaffer tape, and I use it all the time, and it comes in a big roll, and I would recommend this to everyone who would like to use my method for deconstructing your journal, as well as in between pages so that you don't get wet media onto another spread. Also, you're going to need an X-Acto knife or a craft knife or whatever sharp blade. I like to use these because you can buy them and they're super cheap, and they're super sharp. So that's what I use to break the spine. Also, I would recommend either a heavy-duty pair of scissors, or again, you can also use an X-Acto blade or rotary cutter or anything like this. These are my Cutco scissors. I used to sell Cutco, and I absolutely love these. They are so great for cutting through thick cardboard or thick media. Also, the reason that I like the Dylusions journal is because for $20 to $25, you get a really strong product. Of course, everybody has their issues, and like I said, I'm going to solve those today. But you get a sewn binding, and sewn binding allows us to break the spine, take out the glue, and be able to still have a notebook that holds up over time. I'd also like to talk about signatures. Some of us may not know what exactly a signature is. When a book is made, you'll take whatever paper. This is an 8.5 by 11, just for an example. And you fold it in half. Take same size paper, fold it in half around that sheet. Take another 8.5 by 11, fold it in half, and put it over that sheet. Now you could have 10 pages or 20 pages in each signature. It just depends on the notebook, or if you made your own notebook, it depends on how thick you want each signature. So if this particular thing is called a signature, we have 2 signatures together. Sewn binding basically sews 2 signatures together. So, of course, multiple signatures because you have a big notebook. So what I'm talking about when I put gaffer tape on the spine, I take my gaffer tape, my 2-inch, and put 1 inch on each side of the middle of the spine. This prevents the leakage of the wet media going to other signatures inside your book. You can alter any notebook that's sewn the way I'm going to show you. Glued notebooks are not ideal for this. They will fall apart. A glued notebook that isn't sewn bound will have signatures that are glued along here to the spine of the book, or to a piece of paper that's glued to the spine of a book. You won't have reinforcements in between the signatures. So the sewn binding helps keep all of your signatures together, and that is what you need in order to do this trick. It's not really a trick. I just like to think I'm good enough to say it's a trick. I don't know. I'm sure other people have done it, but this is just what I learned on my own. I also would recommend, if you want to glue the exoskeleton back, use a heavy gel medium or a molding paste. That's what I used because this is quite a heavy cardstock. And I also use tons and tons of gesso, and that also helps with keeping the gaffer tape nice and juicy so we can get media on it, and also kind of smooths out the edges of the gaffer tape, and I'll show you that after I show you the technique. So to begin, we're going to cut off that exoskeleton. So I like to just cut the envelope page off. And whether or not you use that to reinforce your cover or not, doesn't matter. Either way, you will be using this technique. So now I'm attached still, but I cut off the elastic from here and also from here. And you can save this for something. My notebook, it's way too chunky to use this as a closure, but that's totally optional if you'd like to keep that. So if you'd like to use this exoskeleton envelope, I like to cut around the edges. You can see that there's a little gap here, and same on this side. There's a gap here. So the exoskeleton is bigger than your actual notebook. I cut along there as well because I don't want that extra gap. I like to have my page flush with the exoskeleton, with the cover. So you can see in my old notebooks, I don't have that gap. Of course, it's too big, you can't really see it, but it's the same size as my pages. So you can glue that on and cut it down, or don't cut it down, glue it on. It's great for hiding ephemera or anything flat. It doesn't really expand too much, so it's not like a pocket for pens and pencils, but I do like the idea of putting this on the cover. It just adds a little something to it, and then I can collage or paint over it when I'm almost done with the book, because they do get pretty banged up and messy, so I don't choose to paint them until I'm finished with the notebook, or at least, you know, it's getting to the end. I did that with my first one. I painted the cover afterwards. You can see I used what I thought duct tape would work to keep the notebook together. It does not, but the gaffer tape does, and you can also put it along your spine. This is like 2 pieces of gaffer tape stuck to each other. And you can see it's not really stuck to the book. It's stuck to the covers, but there is a big gap here. The spine will never be perfectly flush, but this holds up really, really well. I mean, it is probably about 10 pounds, but it's not gonna fall apart because it's kind of like taped to itself. So I'm gonna show you how to do the spine now. We're gonna break the spine. I know that sounds horrible, but we gotta do it. So the one thing you need to look out for is you don't want to cut the sewn binding. So we know that underneath this red tape is basically the book. There's no, it's not very thick. There's nothing there protecting you from the book. So be very careful as you cut into it with your very, very sharp blade. You want to cut just the tape, hopefully. If you cut something else, it's okay. It's not going to wreck the notebook. It's just suggested, and I think maybe, you know, I didn't even do it hard enough because I'm so scared. But you will cut and remove all of the red tape. I know it might be a little scary, but it's important because that's how we can expand the notebook. So under that red tape, you can see there's like a little bit of paper pulp and some glue. and I just start kind of peeling like a sticker to get all of the red tape off. And it's fairly easy if you have a sharp blade. I'm not putting very much pressure on it at all because I don't want to cut into the note, into the signatures. I'm sorry for the wobbliness. I'm doing the best I can. So now you can see, I mean, we can remove it further, but now you can see it's still holding together because it still has a little bit of glue. But I'll let you know that over time, you won't even notice it. You can also just score it a little bit. I'm not cutting into the threads. You can see the threads. You can feel them. They're kind of lumpy. So you get rid of all the red tape. And then what I typically do is glue this first page. Oh, sorry there. Glue this first page to the cover. And if you might have your exoskeleton on here. I'm not going to show you how to glue because I'm assuming you know how to do that. So I glue this front page because it's a little wonky. It doesn't really lay flat. Glue this to the cover. You can see, I know it's sewn bound because you can see the stitches. You can see the holes. And this will be the middle of the signature. You can see the thread popping up here. What's most important is to tape using the gaffer tape or something similar to tape each signature to each signature, as I showed you in my example. So to keep this together, you'll have the sewn binding, and the sewn binding will start stretching. In fact, this notebook has already started stretching, and I haven't even used it. You can see that it's kind of tearing away from itself. Those are the pages that you want to tape. Now, in my second Dylusions journal, I taped much more than the first. I'll show you how it's separating, but it's still together. I can't pull it apart. But in order to combat that, if you tape it, you won't have the gap. There's no gap. So each of these pages are stuck to itself, and then the signatures are stuck to each other. Here I tried to use 1 inch of the gaffer tape instead of the whole 2 inches. Don't do that. Don't be stingy. I tried that. It doesn't work. It sticks to itself when you close pages. The tape will stick to itself and it will come off, and no matter how much gesso and how much paint you use, I would really suggest using the whole width of the tape, because it will blend in pretty much with your background. You can see some of the edges. I don't really mind that. It doesn't bother me. If it bothers you, you can either like sand it or lay down enough gesso to kind of make that line go away, and if that bothers you. Or you can just start your page, you know, with like a margin if you like. But like I said, the gaffer tape actually does a really good job accepting mixed media. And you can see the gaffer tape also helps you not to have bleeding through signatures. So you can see paint seepage here. That's because I didn't put gaffer tape down here. So that wet media goes onto other pages. I don't mind that as much because you know, that's the price of having all your pages together. But you can see that when I do the gaffer tape, there's no leakage in between. And the gaffer tape is what makes it so fat right away. Even though this is my current work in progress, and this is the first version that doesn't have a lot of gaffer tape, it's still, with all of your mixed media pages, it still gets pretty fat, and that will start to warp the spine. And that's why we want to take off that tape, because you can expand the notebook however big it needs to be. The sewn binding will expand with your notebook, and the gaffer tape will make for sure that your notebook stays together. So between the sewn binding and the gaffer tape, you can expand the notebook. I mean, some of these get to be about 5-6 inches at their widest point. And like I said, this is about 2 inches, so it's twice the size of the original unaltered book. So if I were to take my gaffer tape, I just have a little bit of, I don't know, something mixed media in there. I lay it down in the middle. I try to get it in the middle as best as I can. Smooth it down, no bubbles. You want to really put it in the crease. Cut. And then I fold it this way to crease it as well. And like I said, you can do this on every single page. I would suggest starting out doing it in between signatures so that you are taping 2 signatures together, as I explained earlier. Also, in order to keep the spine from getting too wonky when you want it to lay flat, I suggest working non-linearly. So that means I start a spread, say, in the beginning, and then my next spread will be kind of in the back, and then my next spread will be in the middle. And I'll continue to do that. I'll continue to split. I'll be in the first quarter of the book, I'll be in the last quarter of the book, and then I'll be in the middle of the second quarter and middle of the third quarter, so that your notebook doesn't fill up one side. Like if you started from the back or started from the front, I've done that with notebooks. It won't be too heavy on the front or too heavy on the back. It'll be a little bit more even as the spine breaks. So I would say, like, once you've broken the spine and once you've put in the gaffer tape in between the 2 signatures, she's gonna get fatter and she's gonna bust that glue bit that's here, and you won't see it. You won't even have to remove it. It's just not even necessary. If you'd like to finish off the book to make it look a little bit nicer, like I said, I put the gaffer tape along the spine, so it just kind of looks like it has a spine that's completed. I don't do that until the end. Like I said, this is my work in progress. I won't put anything over the spine of this because, like, I tried to put duct tape on the spine of my last one and busted it. So I won't do that until it's completely filled and it's chunkiest. Again, you can also put, you know, some kind of closure on this. You need to. Sorry, that's a cat. And mine get too chunky, so I can't really close it, and I don't really think it makes a difference, but that's totally up to you. So I talked about breaking the spine, doing things non-linearly. If you do get annoyed at the non-linear part, what you can do is an index. So at the beginning of your notebook, you would put 1 through, I don't know how many pages this is, so say, 1 through 200. And then each page, or you could just, number every other spread if you guys do a full page spread. And then you can write, like if you're doing the Wanderlust, you can write the date and the teacher and the page number so that you can come back to it if you don't know exactly where you were in the notebook. Because I work non-linearly, but I do date my pages, so that's really all I need to do. Sometimes I write Wanderlust in the page because I do other things in this notebook. Obviously, it's not all just Wanderlust. And I think that's about it. I hope you like this method. I hope it helps. Please feel free to send me any questions. Like I said, this is just how I figured out how to make this notebook work, and I really like it. And I finished one Dylusions journal already since the beginning of January. I'm on my second one, and I fully intend on using the third one. So I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Bye!